Hi, what's happening, everyone? Welcome to the program. You are tuned in. You're blasting the bits onto your eyeballs from the Jeff Gerstmann Show. It's a podcast. It's about video games. Hello. Hi, I'm your host for this week's installment of the program. My name is Jeff Gerstmann. And the vibes are on this week. No, are they? I don't know. Hey, hi, everyone. It's 10 a.m. in America, and here we are. Down to there'll be one more podcast before we get. But I guess next to podcast is election day, right? That's when they do that. The 5th? I don't know. I voted this morning. I took my thing. I have my sticker. It's funny, when you vote by mail, they just give you the sticker. Like, I could have not voted and I would still have this sticker that says I voted by mail. And I could wear it and go, and lie about having voted. Instead, I'm doing the opposite, where I voted. And, it's like stolen valor if you wear the sticker, I think, is how that works. I voted. I put my ballot into a box that hopefully no one sets on fire. I don't, that happened. I guess in Oregon and Washington, some fucking Yahoo decided to set some fucking ballot boxes on fire. The cops say they got a lead on this guy. I don't know, man. It's good. It's a good time here in the old United States of awesome. I don't know. I spent last night I had to research a bunch of like local races for school board, and because it's like I care about that stuff now. I mean, I kind of always did to a certain extent, but like I got kids in these schools. I should probably look and see what fucking maniacs want to run the school board. And I was looking at it and going like, okay, there's 3 people running. This person is this person's a teacher. And seems like seems like they got a good rap about it. Okay, all right. Who are they endorsed by? Who likes this team? And I look at it going, okay, all right, yeah. These positions seem reasonable. And then you go look at the other one. Is just like it's like, and on the ballots they show the business or position that the person was in. Like what job do they have or something? And so it's like teacher, and then one of them's like local businessman, and then you look at it and go like, are you really a local businessman? And then you go read up on it and it's like, this lived in the area since yesterday, and you're like, okay, all right, I see. I don't know, man. It's the especially in California, voting for president, it's like, hey, like, all right, I'll vote for Harris. That seems like the sane thing to do. In California, you look at it and go like, yeah, I mean, like I could write in like Jill Stein's shit in it, and that, it's California, the votes are going to go the way they go on those sorts of races. But Harris seems like the sane candidate. I don't understand, there's a real, like, the case for, like, I really don't understand. And I guess this sums up the issues in this great nation. But like the very thing of like, hey, why would you vote for Donald Trump? Why would you vote for him? Like what betterment would you see out of the nation, out of your state of affairs? Like what would be better for you? If that guy won the race, and like you look at the positions and policies and all of this sort of stuff, and you just look at it and go like, I don't like unless your entire interest is I've got to hurt non-whites. If that's your stated position as a person, if you're just like, I just want to make sure that anyone who isn't white or anyone who is maybe gay has a bad time. If that's like what you're into, then that's the guy for it, right? You got a guy. You finally got a guy who will just come out and say it. This is what I stand for. You're just like, okay. Like if that's what you want to do, then hey, congratulations on having a candidate that will say it openly, as opposed to a handful of the previous candidates that maybe have been a little bit better at hiding it. I don't know. It's fascinating to watch because, you know, and you'll see people, you know, there's a lot of interviews and all this other stuff, and I try not to watch it because it's just like, I don't want to, like, at the same time, I don't like videos that are just like dunking on voters that are like, you know, that maybe are misinformed or whatever. And it's just like all these smarmy fucks with microphones going like, and what do you think about this? And then guys in their red hats going like, well, I think I don't, you know, and they have no fucking idea what they're saying. But like at the same time, I don't take any pleasure in like watching that sort of stuff. You know, it's not like, oh, look at that buffoon. Look at this dope. You know, you're just like, all right, man. Like, I don't know how you get people to just like re-engage with reality on some of this stuff because some of that stuff is just so far removed that you just look at it and go like, man, what a bummer. What a bummer that this is where it's gotten to for some folks. And that they think like, well, that guy, he's a businessman and that means it's going to be good for business. It's like, dog, what do you think happened last time? What, really? Like, and you look at this policies and you look at the policies he wants to enact, like whatever, you know, mishmash of policy makes it out there and people say, you know, like what he's said the policy is, what the people around him have tried to say some of these policies are about tariffs and all this other stuff. And as you look at that and break it down and, you know, as people kind of run the math on it, they're like, actually, this is super bad. And by the way, this guy has like filed for bankruptcy a billion times and, you know, like is not necessarily known for being a good businessman. He's, you know, and all of this other stuff, by the way, doesn't necessarily have the cleanest track record on that sort of stuff. And yet you'll have people that'll cling to it because like traditionally that was always the thing. It was just like, well, Republicans are better for the economy. And you're like, that's not necessarily true at all. And the trickle down aspect of it of we were going to have tax cuts at the top and everyone else will do fine. Like that's been disproven multiple times. So like the economic argument for it, it doesn't make any sense to me. Like you just look at it and go like on its face, like, look, man, it's also really funny to me to see people like try to paint Harris as like a communist, these leftist radicals. Like, you know, I think Harris has some really good policies. There's some really good policy in there that I think will help people. But like on a lot of, you know, the issues of, you know, dealing with crime and a lot of, you know, there's a lot of issues there that she's almost Reagan-esque. Like she's in some ways a very like way more Reagan-esque than anyone who's run on the Republican side for a lot of years. And watching them spend a bunch of time in their campaign going like, well, Dick Cheney likes us. You're like, oh, good. Oh, cool. Well, that guy's awesome. Well, that's a cool dude. I'm gonna vote like that guy votes. Like, oh man, it's interesting times in the old U.S. of A. around that stuff. But you know, there are policies on her platform that you look at and go like, yes, this will help people. This will help people I know. This is something that, you know, this is not just like a theoretical. Like these are policies that will, you know, help me, help my family, help people I know, and you know, like that stuff just makes a ton of sense. You know, I wish that the party was that they were a little more firmly in favor of things like trans rights. You know, I think that stuff, there's always, you know, stuff that could be done to, you know, move further to the left on some of those issues. Like that shouldn't be a leftist issue. You know, it's people. People should just be able to be people. It's not that that shouldn't be a controversial take, but it's become such a weird hot button issue. I don't know. It's insane, man. It's really fucking wild. And then watching people, you know, then this has been a classic thing. This is the thing that people complained about when Bush was winning the office, or, you know, winning, quote unquote. You know, the people were just like voting against their own interests, and it's, you know, yeah, it's nothing new. It's nothing new. People think like, oh, the world's going to be better for me with this maniac in the office. And no, like that was the guy who was in the office when the pandemic happened, and he did everything he could to derail it. And was saying like, well, let's stop testing so the case numbers don't look so bad, so I don't look so bad. And you're like, okay, well, yeah, you're just going to let people die. We're just going to keep filling these trucks up. Just keep filling these trucks full of bodies. Just stack them high, baby. That was his policy. How'd that work out? Bad is how that worked out. I don't know. The ivermectin of presidential candidates. Anyway, I voted. It's like that stuff. Like it's whatever. Like I said, the state races and the local races are the things that end up mattering more here. Yeah, I mean, I'm not even going to get into JD Vance. The guy's like a fucking turd. Like a walking fucking turd. Just what a fucking, like watching these interviews where he's just like sticking up for his guy because he has to, and just like, yeah, no, I don't think that's the truth. Like that, you're not even like a good liar. You're like a fucking like absolute piece of shit. Just an absolute fucking piece of shit. What a choice. What a fucking choice, man. Just I don't know, man. Like it's weird. It's like this crazy old man who has surrounded himself with like these fucking maniac racists who are all way too online. And then at some point Elon Musk got involved and is just like, every day sinking even lower, and was like, this guy's like, you already knew that this guy was a massive piece of shit, and you're just like, okay. Every day it's revealed to be more. It's not just his weirdly shaped barrel, like his creepy looking body that looks like it's like fucking a bunch of raccoons fucking wrapped up, or I don't know what the fuck is going on in his midsection, man. That guy's a fucking freak of fucking nature. But he's also a complete and total jack off. I don't know, man. Yeah, I mean, yeah, of course he is. He worked on rocket science's fucking Lodestar, The Legend of Tully Bodine. Elon Musk worked on a Sega CD game, and now here we are. Disgusting. So it's been a fun time to play Call of Duty Black Ops 6. And it's an interesting game this year. They've the campaign is just a maniac, weird mess of action movie, cool, over the top nonsense of just like, hey, you're just gonna make a bunch of stuff explode, and you're gonna be globe-trotting through all of these different parts of the world. Some quiet here, some loud here, and I think that they've done a really good job. I have not finished the campaign yet. But it's funny to have a weird campaign that is like ripped from the headlines of yesteryear in an election year and all this other stuff that's going on, and really just, you kind of get to sit back and think about it, and think about Operation Desert Storm and take part in it in a weird way. And it's just it's real strange, man. It's just like a good, it's a reminder that like things have kind of, like make no mistake, like things right now are real fucking crazy in a real over the line way. Like things have shifted so far outside of the norms, and none of this is like okay. None of this is like, you can't let this become the new normal. You just have to look at this and like, okay, this is not like, it is something of an anomaly here. But at the same time, it's not like, we haven't had warmongering presidents throughout the years all over the place. And, I was not, I was a young man. I was just getting out of high school, or still in high school for some of that stuff. Not a Bill Clinton fan. Never was. So it's funny to see him rendered in game, and then all these like gold framed portraits of Saddam Hussein, and that you're running through one of these levels, and it's just like, yeah, it goes from there. It's just real weird to go back and think about all of this stuff as you're kind of replaying, because it kind of weaves in and out of like, you're not like there at the table going, we're gonna bomb Iraq, you're like whatever. You're like the weird spies, like, okay, you're the weird spies on the outside that are like, okay, we need to do this thing, but also whoops, Operation Desert Storm is happening, and that's up to we have to go right now, and there's a war happening where we're going, so fucking, I don't know, let's disguise ourselves as soldiers and get in there and fucking do some shit. And so you go in there and do some soldier shit, but under the cover of like, actually, we're here to do this other thing. It's got a real Mission Impossible vibe to it, of like, because the whole story is like, you are, is there a mole in the CIA? It's all just tropes. It's all just stuff that you've seen before in action films, and like everything, and they piece all of this together, I think, in ways that are like super fun, in a way that is like conceptually like Mission Impossible, and I think that's I think that's kind of the general vibe I've come away with it. It's like you're this ragtag force of like, disavowed agents that you're just like, okay, I don't know, we have to figure out what the hell's really going on because someone is setting us up and someone's doing this, and making your way through that stuff is really fun. There's a stealth mission where you pretty early on in the game, you get a camera that you can use to tag enemies, and then later on you can use it in a weird, like there's a whole open zone level that has like bases in it that kind of, if you're marking targets and all of that other stuff, you're kind of playing it like Far Cry. It's sort of weird. There's a mission where you're undercover with this camera and you're trying to take a picture of a senator's retinas because you're trying to pass a retinal scan somewhere else, which is like, that's just like, that to me is like the perfect example of like a Mission Impossible ass gadget. That's like one step to the left of like fucking rubber masks, of just like, I don't know, this guy fit a weird thing into this camera and retrofit it, and now you got to take this and, steal his eyes, and, it's like good time fucking spy shit. And I've been having a really good time with it, in that respect. And, it's nice, it's weird in a way because you see them using and reusing other parts of the game. And last year's campaign was entirely built, or largely, that you had some missions that were more bespoke, but like you had entire missions that were just built out of, whether it was multiplayer levels, it was just like these kind of like larger, slightly larger zones, and just like get in there and do this thing. And so it's just this aimless, mindless, stupid fight against AI. And a lot of that stuff was super bad. A lot of that stuff was really hard to engage with because just the, you're running at things from all these different angles. And so it doesn't feel cool. It feels like you dropped into a multiplayer map that has AI on it and you haven't seen any humans yet. And so you're just like mowing down AI, waiting for something to happen. And it's that stuff was bad. This stuff feels better, even though it is reusing some of this stuff. So like, there are levels that are set on levels that are, there are levels in the campaign that are set on levels from the multiplayer, or perhaps vice versa. I don't know which came first, right? Maybe they built it for campaign and then said, oh, we can carve this out and make it a multiplayer map or whatever. The end result is that you recognize some of these spots, and you actually, having played some of these maps on multiplayer, it's like, oh, I know how to get from here to here. Yeah, we go around this way and go through here. And it's not necessarily a bad thing. And also there's a level, this is kind of big. You can look at an open map and it's full of side mission icons, like a proper open world game, but it's like, it takes you like 2 minutes to drive across it. It's not like some massive area. But it's got like 12 things packed in there, and you can just go do the 3 things you need to do and move on. But if you do all this other stuff, when you move on, you'll have more gear, you'll have more options at your disposal. That fucking This open world level is great. So you get the ability to call in like a chopper gunner kill streak, the chain gun on the side of the chopper. And every single time you call it in, every single time, up there in the helicopter, they are listening to fucking Ministry's fucking the New World Order song. Every fucking time it just starts to play. And you're just like fucking gunning. And it's just like this weird, like the juxtaposition of just like what that song was, it's like they're trying to say something and they don't. But it's like at the same time, you could envision fucking soldiers out there in the field just listening to it, Beavis and Butthead style, going, oh yeah, just mowing these motherfuckers down. And it's just ridiculous. It is so fucking ridiculous. It's unbelievable. And I love that about it. If you pick that apart and really think about it, it's fucked. But like also it's fucking ridiculous, man. And I like that about it. It is over the top the way a fucking good crazy movie is. You know? It is you are doing insane shit, the same way they would in a Mission Impossible movie, the same way they would in a Fast and the Furious film. Like, you are engaging in these battles with the most over the top fucking weird way possible. And it's been really fun. If if you're not a Call of Duty person, I get it. If you've got Game Pass, you should at least grab it and maybe mess with the campaign for a while. Just drop it down to low difficulty and just like you go blow a bunch of shit up and see what you think. And then all of that is set against, it's structurally, it's not that different from the last Treyarch campaign, which is Black Ops Cold War. You're kind of going back to a safe house between every few missions, and you can talk to all the people that are part of your posse and hear what they have to say and then move on to the next thing. This has like a concept where you're getting cash out in the field as you're killing some of these dudes. Like the elite soldiers have $120 on them for some reason. And then it pops out of them and you pick it up. And then when you get back to base, you can buy upgrades to your health or, hey, we want to reduce sway and scoped view. You're basically buying perks. And buying like, oh, I can hold one more magazine of ammunition or whatever. And that's an okay little system. And it's, it's interesting to talk to the people in your base sometimes. And, like that's where they try to give it something resembling pathos, right? And, Frank Woods is with you. He's in a wheelchair now because when the shit went down in Panama. And so there's a little bit about him, wishing he was still able to go in the field, and it kind of touches on that sort of stuff. Like it's not the most nuanced material, but at the same time, what are you expecting? What are you expecting? It's big, dumb, blockbuster shit, and it's super fun. The multiplayer, I am warming up to it. It is, it's a very it is a different game than the past couple of years have been. The maps are a little bit larger, and so the pace of combat is a little bit different. And I think if you are expecting fast-paced small map craziness, like they've put some of that in there. In fact, there is a map in this game that is maybe the smallest, craziest fucking thing they have ever put out. But in a general sense, when you're going and playing the main modes, you're getting these kind of larger maps than normal, and so that'll set up sight lines for snipers and things of that nature. The larger space, there's an interesting thing that kind of all like stretches together here that like feels in concert up to a point where you go, oh, is this why they did this? Because this is devious. But like the rest of it feels virtuous and like pretty cool, where it's okay. So the maps are a little bit larger. The pace necessarily is a little bit different. There's a little bit more quiet skulking happening in some of these maps as you're playing it. And as a result, it behooves you to stop for a little bit and listen for footsteps and go like, oh, okay, I'm looking at the mini map. I don't see my guy on the other side of this door, but I sure do hear footsteps on the other side of this door. And so I need to wait here, and he's going to run through, and I'm going to fucking pop him, or I'm going to, or I'm going to try to run in there, and I know there's someone in here, so I'm going to try and win that fight or whatever. And so it's much more of a footsteps game than it has been for a couple of years here. I know people had complaints about footstep audio a few years ago, just in terms of they thought it was too loud. But this is there's definitely a benefit to, like, let's slow down a little bit and listen for this shit and try and be a little bit smarter, as opposed to let's run full speed and murder as many people as possible, which is weird in a way, because I feel like that does not align with a lot of the Omni movement stuff that they have added to the game this year. Omni movement, if you're not familiar with it, you have the ability to run sideways and backwards. You can also dive to the side, like Max Payne style, or dive backwards and land on your back, and some more action movie type shit. I have not found a single use for any of that stuff. Or rather, every time I try to do it, I just end up dead. Every time I try to do something that might look cool, I am instead being shot in the fucking... I'm instead like landing on the ground, and someone is just going, ha, and shooting me. And then that's that. I've had little to no success with that stuff. And vice versa. Like, I am not necessarily... people dive around the corner, and then because they're diving, they miss a bunch of shots because they are not that good of a shot. And maybe at higher levels, people are fucking nailing this stuff. And then they land on the ground, and I go, ha, and shoot them in the face. And then I move on. And so it's this weird potential way for you to stunt, but if you ain't got it, it's just, you're just going to end up dead over and over again. And it's a shame, because I think those systems are actually really interesting and fun, and I wish I had more opportunities to use them. And maybe that's something that just, like anything else, you got to practice at it. So that you are a better shot and there's attachments you can put on a gun to, make it a little bit more accurate or something when you're, when you are diving or sliding or whatever. Sideways slides I find are pretty cool. Like when you're running, you kind of turn to the side, and as you're rounding a corner, hit that button and kind of slide around as you finish the turn, and then you're ready to, like, sometimes I'll have some success with that. But the dives, no. So the other thing they have in here are what they call strike maps, and it seems like these maps were maybe built for, I don't know, man. Like, some of these maps look like they were built for maybe 4 players total or something, but you can just go play. You can get in a multiplayer hopper that just is like the regular modes: team deathmatch, kill confirmed, whatever, domination. I don't know. On these smaller strike maps. There's only like 4 of them. One of them is like the inside of a fucking apartment, or the inside of like 2 adjoining apartments, I think maybe is actually what it is. But I don't know. It's multiple balconies, but maybe it's all this. Anyway. It is fucking tiny. It is the most meat grindery fucking just run around, hold down the trigger, and get kills map that I have seen in this game ever. Ever. It is ridiculous. It is like it doesn't come up that often when you're playing in that mode. I have not seen it. I have not seen it that frequently, but it is fucking crazy. I just armed an LMG because it would have a lot of bullets in it, and then I just literally held down. I would spawn, hold down the trigger, and just walk forward and turn some corners and get like 3 kills. And it's nonsense. It is super fun when you need that. Like if you're looking for that, if that is the, if you're like one of these players that just wants to play on Shipment all the time, this is like that. It's like half as big as Shipment or something. It's fucking crazy. It's just hallways with like 4 guys in it. And you just hold down the trigger and go like, well, I'm not playing hardcore, so it's not going to kill my guys. Who cares? it's real silly. And so that's a good time too. I don't know. I think it's a good time. It also has a zombies mode in it. I don't care. It's got round-based zombies. Round-based zombies is back, they said, and yes, it is. I played a match of it. They added the ability to like save your game if you're playing alone, which I thought would maybe mean that they would adjust it so maybe it was a more friendly game to play by yourself. I'm not left with the impression that they have adjusted that aspect of it at all. And so alone I can make it to like, I don't know, wave 7 or so, and then 2 things happen. 1, I start to run out of ammo and I've opened too many doors, and 2, I'm completely bored. I have just like 0 interest in the zombie stuff. And there's like these insanely long videos of people going like, here's how to complete the Easter egg to get the jet gun inside of it. And it's just like, go do this and then run over here, or run over here and shoot this pair of shoes, and then run over here and shoot, use the jet gun to suck up these statues. And you're just like, fuck this. This is not, I am so not here for this stuff, man. It is not why I come to this game at all. That's always been the case. And it's just like, whatever. The thing I have not done in the couple of matches of zombies I've played, I've not found myself in a position to board up windows, which is weird because that was always the thing. I'm sure it's in there somewhere. But it's the first map is like a big like outdoor level. And I'm sure there are indoor areas and maybe there's ways to board up windows in those sorts of situations. But yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I think it's a good time. I think it's a good time. It is successfully different, I would say. Like that is the interesting thing about it, is that I think they made a lot of changes to the pacing and a lot of, like they've altered a lot of that stuff. It does feel like a, and this is always going to be, it feels very different as someone who plays the game every year. If you don't, you're going to look at it and go like, this just looks like Call of Duty. And of course, I look at Madden every year and someone goes, no, the truck stick changes everything. I'm like, okay. But yes, it does have a pretty different feel to it this year, and in a way that I think is successful. It doesn't feel like just a full on rehash of the ideas found in Black Ops Cold War, which I think was, that had some fun maps and whatever else, but ultimately I found it to be a little dull. This feels like in some ways it feels like a more realized version of some of those methods, some of those ideas, like a more successful version of it or something. But like, it doesn't just feel like, hey man, we took it back to this. It feels more like, hey, we have some ideas from that are still valid here, but we added in the Omni movement. We did this, we did that. Like it has a pretty different feel to it overall. And, parts of it are kind of broken. I don't know. There's some patches that have come out and it's been technically situations where like you're building a multiplayer loadout and putting attachments on your guns, and then you back out of the map and it says like, you've got some of the attachments on your gun can't be used in multiplayer. Like, that's not a thing. What? And or like, hey, I changed all my loadouts, then I went into the match and the loadouts hadn't saved, or like just weird, some weird stuff like that. That I think is mostly ironed out now. I've loadouts have been saving fine for me for the past couple of days, but that stuff was rough before. Just some weird animation stuff in the campaign where like I had a character just like magically teleport in next to the character I was talking to, so she could be flipping through a book that was there, and the book showed up before she did, and all it's like weird, some funky shit like that. But but yeah, I think overall, I think they've done a pretty good job. I'm still working my way through the campaign, like I said, but I think overall they've done a pretty good job at building something, differentiating it from the past few games that have come out, and making it feel different, but still obviously recognizable as Call of Duty, obviously, and still a good time. So yeah, I don't know. That's what I got to say about that. They're gonna add, they're putting Nuketown in it later this week, and I'm if I am done with Nuketown. I don't know. It's a good map. I'm done with it. They put it in all their games. Treyarch always puts it on all of their games, and it's there's nothing wrong with Nuketown other than I have just seen a lot of it over the years, and it's not something I'm necessarily looking forward to going back to. There's no part of me that is like, yay, Nuketown. It's just like, okay, yeah, sure, why not? Also recently released, the Jackbox Survey Scramble. It is nice to have the Jackbox sensibility and the kind of room code phone based, like the multiplayer concepts that make Jackbox work. It's nice to have that applied to something else than just the standard Jackbox party pack mentality of just like those games. This is more, so it's based on surveys, and you can, when you are killing time in between games, there's a button on your phone that will just say answer surveys, and you can just go answer survey. It'll ask you questions. They're all like, in one word, describe something that you had to look up online to learn how to do. Or, it just a wide variety of questions that are all asking you basically for like one word answers. And then it will use those survey answers to populate the survey, the surveys and the things you do. So it's funny. I have kind of like read the rules of the games. I have not had time to actually get, because I don't have anybody here that will play it. These kids don't have their own phones yet, unfortunately. Failure as a parent not buying these kids their own phones. Oh, they would love to have their own phones. Oh, the rate at which they will steal a phone and run away with it. Boy, they would love to have their own phones. But no, it has kind of 4 different games in it that are all based around these kind of survey concepts and, how you're going to figure out what's the most popular answer. So it's like a little bit Family Feud, but it doesn't seem like there's a mode in there that is just like, yo, it's Family Feud. But it is like a similar concept, like, you are taking survey answers, figuring out what the most popular answers were for this stuff, and so on. And that's pretty neat. I'm looking forward to trying it out. Actually trying it out. But I actually spent like 10 minutes last night. I loaded it up just to take a look at it. And I just sat there answering survey questions. I was like, and even that was sort of fun. So I don't know. Nintendo's playtest thing, is it over yet? I don't know. Like man, for something that people were super excited to know about, I feel like interest in Rockstock, codename Rockstock, has really bottomed out immediately. I'm not in the playtest. But I found some people streaming it over the weekend and took a look at it, and it just had this, it was just like, here's this empty area, and you can kind of build block, you're kind of putting down blocks to build stuff, and you kind of see off in the distance that maybe there are other players doing the same thing. It was really hard to get a sense for what the game was, because the 2 or so streams I found were just like dudes streaming it, and then instead of like playing it and talking about it and looking at it, they were instead just like had this like smug smirk on their face, and instead we're talking about like, I'm not worried if I get banned. I don't, whatever, man. What are you gonna do? A DMC it? Okay, man, whatever. And it was just like, shut the fuck up. just fucking dopes, man. So I still don't have a firm grasp on what that thing is. And the people who were streaming it were just like fucking idiots. I don't know. What are they gonna do? I mean, if they ban my account, I might be a little more. That might be if they perma ban, But if they DMCA, it was just like a weird vibe about all of that stuff. But yeah. So I don't know. I'm curious to see what that thing really is. I don't know. I don't have a huge firm grasp on what am I even saying on what Nintendo's thing is. I wonder if it will come out. Like I said, it didn't, the vibe talking to people who'd played it but didn't stream it. And just the general sense around it, people did not seem super positive on it, for whatever that's worth. But who knows? It just also looked like such a limited test that it's very hard to get a feel for what that is. What do you say we get into some news? Jason Schreier of Bloomberg is reporting on Twitter right now that Firewalk Studios, the maker of the game Concord, is being shut down. That is as of a couple of minutes ago here. So not a lot of detail on that front. In fact, what I told you seems to be all the information that is currently out there. That's sad, but I would not necessarily say surprising information. It was weird because the Steam depots for Concord had seen some updates over the last couple of weeks here, and so maybe they were doing something to make a pitch to like, hey, here's what we could do with the game, and maybe Sony rejected that pitch and shut it down, or we can only speculate at the moment here what the last month or so has been like over there. I imagine it has not been an amazing time for anyone involved with that. And I'm sure, there had been some reporting from a couple of weeks ago saying that like, yeah, there's people that are leaving or people that are kind of seeing what the severance might be like if they do shut it down, and everyone's polishing their resumes. So I don't know that this is necessarily going to catch anyone over there by surprise, but man, it's a shame. That studio was, I guess, incubated by this Probably Monsters group, which is Harold Ryan, who was, one of the main guys at Bungie for a very long time. When he left, he started that thing, and they, kind of spun up a few studios. They eventually sold, Probably Monsters sold Firewalk to Sony during the development of this game. All sorts of stories coming, internally about some of the different things, or rather, how that game was kind of in pieces or not fully formed from an idea perspective, until relatively recently, the last couple of years, I guess, let's say last year or so. That there were aspects of it where they're like, is this an extraction shooter? What is this? Is this? It feels like that they started creating, they knew they wanted to make a first person game, and some of them came out of Bungie, and that's what all that Bungie has ever, well, no. That's all that Bungie has made for a very long time is first person games. They, at one point, maybe they'll bring back Myth one of these days. I mean, they're doing Marathon. Maybe, they could bring back. What would Myth be if they brought it back now? That would bum people out who liked Myth. Maybe they'll do that. So it seemed like they set out to make some kind of first person game, relatively early on, and then from there had to figure out like, okay, what kind of, there's a lot of different first person shooters out there. What are we gonna do? And it sounds like that's maybe where they ran into, or that's where they spent a lot of time. That's where they spent a lot of time figuring out, like, okay, what is this thing? And I think that what they shipped is not, they did not find the fun in that, because what they shipped was not fun. And so, it's hard to imagine that, like, the things that didn't make it, that didn't make the cut over the years of iteration or pre-production, whatever they spent that time on, it's hard to envision that any of that stuff was going to be better in a way that, like, oh, if we finished this, then maybe this would be a big deal. Like, it's hard to get a sense of that. Sorry, there's like other reporting happening right now. That perhaps Neon Koi, which is primarily had made mobile games, or was working in the mobile space from the look of it, but also was formerly known as Savage Game Studios and are owned by PlayStation. That apparently that studio has also been shut down. They were in Finland and Germany, from the looks of things. And sorry, not a ton of additional news on this front here. At this time, kind of looking to see if I can, okay. Okay, so all right. I looked on the PlayStation blog, but of course they don't post studio closures on the, like, consumer facing. This is on the, like, Sony Interactive Entertainment Newsroom blog. Nice white background, very serious here. This is the internal. They posted the internal email that Herman Holst sent out. We consistently evaluate our games portfolio and status of our projects, blah, blah, blah. As part of our efforts to strengthen SIE's studio business, we have had to make a difficult decision relating to two of our studios, Neon Koi and Firewalk Studios. Expanding beyond PlayStation devices and crafting engaging online experiences alongside our single-player games are key focal areas for us as we evolve our revenue streams. We need to be strategic, though, so on and so forth. While mobile remains a priority growth area for the studio business, we are on the very early stage of our mobile efforts. To achieve success in this area, we need to concentrate on titles that are in line with PlayStation Studios' pedigree and have the potential to reach more players globally. With this refocused approach, Neon Koi will close and its mobile action game will not be moving forward. Regarding Firewalk, as announced in early September, certain aspects of Concord were exceptional, but others did not land with enough players, and as a result, we took the game offline. We have spent considerable time these past few months exploring all our options. After much thought, we have determined the best path forward is to permanently sunset the game and close the studio. I want to thank all of Firewalk for their craftsmanship, creative spirit, and dedication. The PvP first-person shooter genre is a competitive space that's continuously evolving, and unfortunately, we did not hit our targets with this title. We will take the lessons learned from Concord and continue to advance our live service capabilities to deliver future growth in this area. It's a weird way to phrase it because, they did not frame Concord as a live service game. It did not have that type of monetization. It was not a free to play, like the things that you kind of hallmark as like what a quote unquote good full live service game maybe looks like. Or a game that is built to monetize, I guess I would say. Maybe good is not the right word there. But to say the lessons learned from Concord and continue to advance our live service capabilities to deliver future growth in this area is like a weirdly telling thing. If he viewed Concord as a live service game, then yeah, that's not what that game was. So, I mean, they did have seasonal updates and all that other stuff. So, but like it did not monetize the way a live service game traditionally monetizes, I guess is my point. if we want to call Concord a live service game, I suppose we have to allow it because they did have a roadmap and they did have multiple seasons of updates planned and all of that sort of stuff. But anyway, we will work to find placements for some of those impacted within our global community of studios where possible. I am a big believer in the benefits of embracing creative experimentation and developing new IP. However, growing through sustainable financials, especially in a challenged economic environment, is critical. While today is a difficult day, there's much to look forward to in the months ahead from the studio business group and our teams. I remain confident that we are building a resilient and capable organization driven by creating unforgettable entertainment experiences for our players. Thank you for your continued support. Yeah. You know, not like I said, not a huge shock. The loss of Neon Koi, you know, presumably their game was not, like, as he said, if you take that as face value, at face value, the game they were making was not aligned with, you know, what they view as, and their view for mobile, as far as I can tell, as far as I've kind of pulled apart from some of the stuff they've done or said, is that they don't necessarily view it that differently from the way they view putting their games on PC. You know, it's like, hey, here's a way for us to get our concepts, our IP out to a wider audience of people in the hopes that it will bring them back to the core thing. And I hope that they will buy a PlayStation and that they will engage in our ecosystem more directly. They're not just looking to have great games on mobile. Like, they want to have great games on mobile that get you to buy a PlayStation. And so I don't know what that game was. I don't know what Neon Koi was working on, but it sounds like it was maybe not aligned with whatever that vision is. Firewalk, like I said, it's hard to be surprised by this. Like, that was such a, I'm gonna, you know, I'm thinking, I'm racking my brain right now before I use the word, but like, that's an unprecedented situation. Hey, we are gonna sell you this multiplayer shooter. Hey, we know it's been a couple of weeks. We aren't blind. We know you aren't either. We're just gonna give you the money back for this, and just let's all just move on. And we're going to turn this game off. We're sorry to turn the lights off like that. Ooh, and pretend that none of this ever happened. I cannot think of a similar scenario that happened in anything resembling that kind of time frame. And I think it speaks to management's, you have to take this as a failure of management. Outside of the Firewalk team, like, how do you ship this game in the first place? How does any of this happen? Like, who left the door open and they accidentally shipped a game? Like, how did, you know, okay, like, hey, we've come too far on this thing. We spent too much time and money on it. You got to ship something. Did previous management greenlight all this? And then when Jim Ryan is out and the transition happens and everything, does the new regime sit there and go like, well, we can't just fucking cancel it now. Like, we're stuck. They're already manufacturing discs. I guess we just got to bite the bullet on this and just take this. But Jesus Christ, this is a terrible idea. This is going to be a train. Like, they had to have known. And so they sunk cost fallacied their way into releasing a game, I guess. That's the only, like, you know, again, and that's just, I'm speculating. I'm trying to figure out, like think this through. How does that happen? Like, how do you not know? Like, what metrics are you missing? What data are you missing? Like, did every analyst fucking blow it and go like, this is super fun. I'm loving this Concord. It's still Walnut Creek, but damn. Like, you know, can we do Stockton next? Like, I just, how do you, it's hard to understand how how that could have happened. And it didn't show well. And yeah, there's been some people have used the term toxic positivity to describe some of the internal vibes at Firewalk around Concord. Like, did they just smile their way through it and everyone went like, yeah, this cutscene thing, yes. Like, I just wonder how you did you get the wrong people for the focus test and just like they loved it? Like, how do you, I wonder like how this happens. How this was allowed to happen and how this wasn't a thing where you're like, okay, like, guys, I love that you love the game you're making. I think that's really awesome. I don't think this is gonna be the next Star Wars or whatever you're pushing. Like, whatever. That's all from some of the reporting, and some of that is secondhand. But like, you look at that and go like, okay, like, granted, you're trying to promote a game. When you say this is going to be the future of PlayStation, like, those people, like, if those people are still at PlayStation internally, the people that fucking, greenlit, made all this happen, and, like, at no point stepped up and said, hey, we should stop on this one. I just don't understand how that game gets all the way through. And yeah, if this is a game that like Herman Hulst was like, championing all the way through, like, genuinely, I mean, if as the head of this team, you have to be positive about the things your team is making, right? If you're in that leadership position, you can't just publicly be like, publicly, or just like in front of the whole company, say like, hey, this thing's dog shit. You can't do that. You have to, be positive if you're going through with shipping it. But if this was something that all along with him, he's like, no, this is going to be great, and then they shipped it and it's bad, like, how do you not lay some of this at his feet and go like, dude, you blew it in a way that, like, I don't think anyone has ever blown it before. Like, this is a, like, mythical tier, fucking purple, fucking glowing rarity blowing it that we've done here. And again, like all that stuff will probably end up getting pinned on Jim Ryan one way or the other, right? They'll just go like, well, that guy's gone and we'll never, but like, who knows? Were there other people who are still part of that organization that were convinced that this was going to be the next big thing? And yeah, hey, everyone gets it wrong, man. Like, whatever. Like, I guess the other part of this is that everyone always, no one's fucking perfect when it comes to saying, hey, this is going to be a hit. This is going to be a big deal. It's you can't always call it. It's just that this one is so fucking far off the mark, and they were so ready to yank it. Off shelves, off PSN, all of that other stuff, that you just go like, what? How did you not notice this 3 weeks ago? How did you not go? And granted, you're eating a warehouse full of discs, but you're eating that either way. Now you just have to go through all the hassle of returning games and everything. It's I don't know. You'd think that there would have been some signs, is my point here. And so it's disappointing. It is incredibly frustrating, and I feel for the people at Firewalk, because there's aspects of Concord that, like, good work was done, like, there were assets generated for that look cool. There's like aspects of that game that you go like, oh yeah, this is like, big budget stuff from people who knew what they were doing. And then just the part where it became a shooter and some of the gameplay design and all that stuff, you're just like, oh, okay, this is, and some of the character design and whatever else, you're just like, I don't want to engage with this. And so I feel for the people involved, of course. But at the same time, it's hard. Like I said, it's hard to view any of this as a surprise. Just like a colossal waste of time, money, just resources, I guess, if you just want to generalize. Real crazy. Real crazy. Speaking of real crazy, Treyarch has decided to put some headphone stuff into this year's Call of Duty game. I mentioned before that this game feels like it benefits from you being able to hear footsteps. It's a headphone game for sure on that front. If you want to get into that, they have partnered with an external company called Embody that creates custom headphone profiles. And so what they for spatial audio. And so there's a generic spatial audio thing you can set in game. And then you can also do a personalized spatial audio profile. And I don't know what that entails. I have not gone through the hoops I don't know if do I have to send the same pictures of my ears that I sent to Mark Cerny's house? Do I forward them to this company as well? I don't know what the process is of creating that specific headphone profile. I went to go do it, and you can't. Oh, by the way, I forgot maybe what is the most important part of this story. If you want to do the personalized spatial audio profile, it's a 30-day free trial, and then it costs you $20. You have to pay them $20 for the personalized audio, earphone, whatever. I can't tell you if this is beneficial. I can tell you that it's a game where you want to hear footsteps, and you would love to be able to hear where those footsteps are coming from as accurately as possible. I think that would be beneficial. I'm not going to sit here and say it's pay to win. People have been screaming about it. But a lot of people have not tried it. I also have not tried it. And so I'm going to withhold from that part of the rage of the, people are spewing about this stuff because they had to disable it. It has not been re-enabled. We appreciate your patience as our team works around the clock to resolve an issue affecting enhanced headphone mode. Due to a high volume of traffic during a Black Ops 6 patch update, this feature has been temporarily disabled in the game. We understand how valuable this experience is for you, and we're working closely with the Treyarch team around the clock to bring it back online. So they had to disable the Magic Ears stuff temporarily for technical reasons. So when I went to go look for it, I'd played the game for a while. Like, okay, right, I heard about this fucking dumb sounding ears thing. Let's go check out the ears thing. And I'm looking at the audio menu going it was right here. I swear it was in this menu. What is, I didn't dream it. I could not have possibly dreamed this. This simply must have existed. And then I went and dug up the website for this company. And, yes, it has been temporarily disabled. For those who have already purchased enhanced headphone mode, rest assured your purchase is still valid and will be fully accessible and operational as soon as the feature is available again. All trial periods will be extended by a week in appreciation for your patience. We aim to ensure that the experience is seamless and enjoyable for everyone, and we're committed to maintaining high standards in our service. So this being an external thing that, maybe you have to buy something for, this sounds to me this is not that different than when you see, sometimes you'll see games that just have weird support for some external fucking piece of hardware where they're just oh yeah, we support Tobii eye tracking. And you're that's not a thing this game needs at all, but okay. Or we support all the weird light up keyboards. If you've got Razer gear, we're going to make your keyboard light up. Or specific support for track IR, something like that. Put on your trucker hat and bolt this thing to it so we can track your head and track your eyes and all of this. So this just seems like something that is in line with that. but not something where you need to buy custom hardware for it. It's just something that, you know, they do with your... The PlayStation 5 does have similar support for like personalized headphone profiles and all of that. I don't know if this is the same tech or not, because like I said, it's been disabled. And so I will try this, and I will let you know what I think about it at some point, because I like, if this ends up being a situation where like, oh, I'm clearly better at the game with this spatial audio thing that lets me hear, like I said, footsteps are very important in the game. They've got perks in the game that will quiet your footsteps. In fact, they've had that in years past. That's not new. But it is such a weird thing. People in chat are saying that Final Fantasy XIV also did something with the same company. Looks like Cyberpunk also has something, and it looks like it's the same deal. It's not like you just buy you don't just buy access to this thing once and then it works across all games. It looks like they sell it on a per game basis. So if you want it for Final Fantasy, it's $20. If you want it for Cyberpunk, it's $20. If you want it for Call of Duty, it's $20. And that appears to be the only games that support it. It's a strange, it's strange because this has not really been this is not something that's happened frequently. This whole enhanced headphone mode, or personalized headphone mode. They had to put up a page on their site that says breaking down the rumors. That's always a good sign when like the reaction to you partnering with this technology is like, yo, fuck all this. Like, that's, people are stoked. And so they had to put up a page to break down the rumors. It's a 2-question fact. Question 1, do I have to pay $20 to hear immersive audio in Call of Duty Black Ops 6? No. Enhanced headphone mode comes free for everyone. You do not have to pay anything to experience immersive audio on headphones. Check it out for yourself in the audio settings. Click to enable it in the game, and you will hear the game audio come to life all around you without you paying for it. We agree. Immersive audio is great, but free immersive audio is even better. Question number 2. Then why do I keep hearing about $20 for immersive audio in Call of Duty Black Ops 6? Enhanced headphone mode comes automatically with a universal profile free for all gamers. This spatial audio profile is sometimes referred to as an HRTF, or head-related transfer function, which is a function of human head and ear size and shape. The universal profile uses an average head and ear size and shape. The free universal profile will work for the majority of players. You also have the option to create your own personalized profile based on your unique head and ear shape. The ear shape is particularly complex and modifies how you hear spatial audio very uniquely, which is pretty directly different than what they just said about the majority of players are fine with the free one. Like, no! It's very unique. The personalized profile, which is optional for any gamer, comes with a 30-day free trial. After the trial duration, if you want to continue, you can purchase a license for a one-time payment of $19.99. Otherwise, you always have the universal profile, which you can continue to use for free. So there you go. They broke down the rumors without addressing like, hey, does this make me better at the game? Hey, is this like, which, is not necessarily their place to say one way or the other, I suppose. But that is the concern. It's not like, hey, what's the deal with this? It's hey, like, why, do I need to buy this to be competitive? I will be very interested to see if like the ranked or pro or what, like if professional Call of Dutists all use this profile, or if they don't. Like that's I feel like the telling thing, right? I think 3D audio is cool. Like the spatial audio is neat. At the end of the day, every time I've experienced it on headphones, I've been like, huh. And you could see a world where in a multiplayer game where you want to know where people are coming from and all of that sort of stuff, where like having the best possible spatial audio might give you a benefit as a player, which is maybe not an awesome situation. The other thing they say that they did not mention on that page is that you're buying a 5-year license for it. But make no mistake, I'm going to go ahead and guess that they are not going to sell this for the next 5 years of Call of Duty games. I'm going to go ahead and guess that this will allow you to use it in Black Ops 6 for 5 years, which in 5 years, in all likelihood, you will not be playing Call of Duty Black Ops 6. You will be playing whatever Call of Duty game came out 5 years from now. And if they like this technology on the Activision side, on the Microsoft side, maybe you could pay $20 every year to enable your profile for yet another game. I don't know. But I'm going to go ahead and guess that this is not something that's going to apply to every Call of Duty game for the next 5 years. I could be wrong. That would be a nice surprise. I don't know. Not a nice, I mean, nice, sure. In the grand scheme of whatever this shit show is, like, does it work in Warzone? I don't know. The Warzone stuff I don't think is going to change until the first season of Black Ops 6 starts, which has been rumored to be around mid-November from your friends at Little Caesars, who posted, yes, when season 1 starts on the 14th, you're going to do this. And then they pulled that and when season 1 starts, whenever. So maybe they leaked that early by mistake. Or maybe they didn't. Who can say? Who can say? Get some pizza puffs and figure it out. They did skins. There's a Monster Energy skin for a lady. And I gotta say, I think the characters in this game are dumb. I think the multiplayer operators, and you know, hey, in 6 weeks, I'm sure they'll be selling all kinds of stupid shit. Right now, they're not selling much of anything at all. And so I've got a pizza dude who has a hat that says "Hot and Ready" on it, and I believe his name is Major Za. I mean, it's like one of the existing characters. It's the name of the skin is Major, which is like hilarious. And he's got a pizza cutter attached to his like his chest, and I just want to fucking like take that. Like there needs to be a finishing move, and I don't think he has one. Like you need to be able to fucking Nick Gage that shit and pull it off and fucking embed it in someone's face, dude. Like that needs to be a melee weapon. Like the game has a separate slot for knives now. It has a dedicated melee slot. I need to be able to put the fucking pizza cutter in the fucking knife slot. Jesus Christ, man. Little Caesars should be cool where Domino's wasn't and say, yeah, no, cutting dudes with pizza cutters, put it in the game. We're down. We don't call it crazy bread because we're not crazy. Put it in the game. Oh, well. Maybe next year. Of course, the release of Black Ops 6 brings with it a bunch of, speculation and analyst talk about how the game will sell this year and what's going to happen and what is Game Pass, how many more people are going to subscribe to Game Pass as a result of that. We don't necessarily have a huge chunk of data on that. But Eurogamer is reporting, because UK physical sales are reported more frequently and more directly than they are in the United States. Physical sales in the United Kingdom are 10% lower than last year's game, which you could probably say that is a shift to Game Pass in some capacity. It did have the Steam concurrents were highest for a launch week, I guess, since 2022, according to Eurogamer. It's like the third highest ever. Like, Warzone, the Warzone 2.0 launch was higher, and they did a free weekend that was also higher. But that's not nothing. And And so it seems like a good number of people are playing it on Steam, and it seems like that the physical sales drop, you could potentially account for that in, Game Pass transitions or what have you. Further data here as far as UK physical sales are concerned. Again, it's a subset of a subset of a subset. 80% of those sales were on PlayStation 5, 12% for Xbox Series X and S, and 8% for PlayStation 4. Eurogamer reports this is mostly in line with previous games in the series, which has traditionally dominated on PlayStation, they say. Well, okay. Yeah. Prior to the release of the PlayStation 4, I would not say that Call of Duty traditionally dominated on PlayStation, but yes. Yes, that I suppose it has been a long time since the release of the PlayStation 4. I'm like, that just happened. No, it's like it was this and then it was that. Like, yeah, no, that's, I guess we're talking about it like a decade. Okay, all right. That knocks EA Sports FC 25 to second place in the UK, still somehow leading the boxed copy sales there. And Sonic and Shadow Generations is in third place. Disgusting. Yeah, we'll wait and see. Eventually Microsoft will probably have some kind of report, and if nothing else, man, Activision public relations loves to send out press releases about how many people played their game in the first week or weekend or whatever. Like they, the same Rockstar used to be on top of that shit. Like, this is the biggest day in entertainment spending in the history of anything. Fuck movies. Sam Houser was quoted as saying, fuck movies. No. But Activision would traditionally release something about like, oh, this is the fastest selling. This one's the best selling. This one's the highest engagement, whatever number they can find that is like good for them. They would typically put out some kind of press release or whatever. I have not seen anything like that yet, but the week is young. We'll see. Animal Crossing. Everyone loves it, except for Animal Crossing Pocket Camp on phones, which some people did love. I will grant you. This is getting re-released. You remember that was kind of a free-to-play game, and they were doing some services and some spending and all of that, and they are sunsetting that version of the game on December 3rd, according to Gematsu.com. Animal Crossing Pocket Camp Complete will come out on iOS and Android. It will be available for $10 until January 31st, and at that point, it will go up to $19.99. This is the version of Pocket Camp with no additional monetization. This is the, hey, we're done running this as a service, but we'll sell you a version that has everything, and you can still play it and unlock stuff, and all of the seasonal events will work on a rotation, and all of that sort of stuff. So you can still go make your campsite. They also have added some new features according to the press release. Camper cards. You can scan other players' camper cards and enjoy trading and collecting. You can visit a new place called the Whistle Pass. Other players whose camper cards you registered will come visit. There will be live guitar performances for you to enjoy at night. That sounds like if you scan other people's cards and become like past friends with them or whatever, their characters will show up in your game, I'm guessing. And you can play it offline unless you want to check the time, download data, or check your account. Then that needs an online connection, obviously. You can transfer your save data in from Pocket Camp if you've linked your Nintendo account, but it says here some items from Animal Crossing Pocket Camp may not be available. Mysterious. I was not a fan of Pocket Camp, but some of that was because like it felt like you hit a wall pretty early on where they were like, hey, you should buy this stuff. And you're like, no. What? No. But I don't know, the scope of it, the campground aspect of it didn't did not blow me away for whatever that's worth. So, but I don't know. Nothing wrong with the idea of an Animal Crossing on phones. That seems like a smart idea, in fact, if you do it right. I don't know that this is necessarily right, but hey. I have a question for you. Do you like mature video games? Games for adults? Adult video games for mature individuals? Do you like it rated M? Do you like it rated M? Well, then you're going to be very excited with the Nintendo Switch Online Mature app, because 2 more N64 games have been released. Yes, it's not just Perfect Dark and Turok. Now, also available inside the Mature app. Turok 2 and Shadow Man. Hooray! Finally, a way for you to play Shadow Man. As long as you're mature about it. Don't let kids play Shadow Man. Don't let anyone play Shadow Man. People were joking that like they were never going to update so Nintendo being Nintendo, instead of building something into the application that determines, what the parental controls are and on the system and saying like, oh, you're not able to play these M-rated games inside of the app. Instead, and some of this is probably on the ESRB for the way that they rate apps and games and everything else, how collections of games get rated. They decided to keep the M-rated games out of that app and put them into their own separate application that literally is called the Nintendo Switch Online Mature app. I get, again, parental controls and all that other stuff, like it's easy to understand why they needed to do something, but this is a very Nintendo-like solution as far as I'm concerned. So congratulations, if you're mature enough to handle it, you get to play Shadow Man and Turok 2 on a Switch. Both of those games have been re-released, right? I mean, Turok 2 got remastered a zillion years ago. And then that Shadow Man thing came out, like, that's relatively recent, right? Why? Anyway. Marathon. It's the game that Bungie's working on. We haven't heard a whole lot about Marathon lately. They put out a trailer, and obviously there have been a lot of layoffs and a lot of other things happening at Bungie since then. Bungie put out a 10-minute video relating to Marathon, where Joe Ziegler, who's the director of the game, just talks at you for 10 minutes. They don't have any new gameplay footage. They're like, basically the message from them is, it's coming along fine, but it's too early for us to show you. And so, it is a video, like they seemingly, it feels like that they hit a point where they're like, okay, we need to get a page up on Steam and a page up on PSN so people can add it to their Steam wish lists and whatever else. Like, we're at that point in the cycle where we need to do that. We're not ready to announce a release date or a price or any of that sort of stuff. Also, we don't have any footage ready because the people who would make that trailer, we're still kind of maybe finding our footing. Who knows? And so we don't have a new trailer. We don't have anything. So, Joe, could you just talk to the camera for 10 minutes and we'll just put that out there? Can we just do that? And so they did that. And he doesn't really have, like, it's interesting. He showed like a couple of images, and some, some concept art type stuff, I think, makes its way in there as well. But he also spends a good chunk of time, and I suppose this is probably smart, to explain what an extraction shooter is. And as a result of him explaining what an extraction shooter is, and then also kind of relating that a little bit to Marathon, I feel like has completely unsold me on Marathon. I have a transcript here from Gamatsu. They produced a transcript of this, I believe. I don't believe this was sent out officially, but anyway. So a lot of you, this is from the transcript. So a lot of you might be asking the question, what is Marathon? Well, Marathon is our take on essentially an extraction shooter. And if you don't know what an extraction shooter is, it's a game type where you essentially go into a dangerous world, a world filled with essentially hostile mobs and players alike that are all sort of existing in that environment and a huge threat to you and challenge your ability to survive and get out alive. The goal of every session is to get out alive, and along the way, you're going to be completing quests. You're going to be finding loot that will either help you upgrade yourself or things you can equip to yourself to make yourself stronger. If you get out alive, I'm going to guess that this transcript was maybe well, I don't know. It's missing, and there's just enough typos and mistakes in it that makes me wonder if a computer did this. Anyway, if you get out alive, all that loot is yours to keep. If you don't, you will be losing all of that, and someone else will be able to take that from you. So that's, of course, like that's what extraction shooters are. No problem. But then he follows up. It's an intense game. So in that sense, we like to say it's a game that's not for everybody. But if you are interested in sort of having that intense survival experience and having a game where the stakes really matter and you feel like you're challenged to survive in a really, really harsh and interesting world, then Marathon is just right up your alley. So yeah, hopefully that sounds appealing to you. No. I mean, my hope was, and this is, I think, my hope for that genre overall, right? I think it's really hard. But it was something I was hoping, like, oh, maybe Bungie will be the one to take this on, because Bungie makes games that a lot of people play. They've made wildly popular video games over the years. They know what it takes to make a game appealing to a large audience. And so my hope was that, someone needs to figure out the accessible extraction shooter. Someone needs to figure out the way to, like, hey, this game still has stakes, because obviously that's part of it, but we need to make it so you don't, like, you can't have moments where people fucking lose everything and then they go, well, fuck this, I'm never playing it again. Like, you need to have, like, baby's first extraction shooter, for better or worse. That's not a good term to describe it, but you need to have, like, someone needs to make a game like that. They need to do something about the expectations of what an extraction shooter is and how it all works and how fucked it can be, and try to find ways where it's like, okay, yes, you got fucked. These players fucked you over. They took your shit and they're going to leave with it. But as a consolation prize, there's this. Like, it almost has to become like someone needs to figure out the same way Call of Duty added XP to the game and made it so even when you lose, you're still unlocking stuff. And so you still kind of feel good about just playing the game no matter how you're doing. I strongly feel that, like, someone needs to tackle the extraction shooter from a similar perspective. And I don't know that you can. Maybe it's an impossible problem to solve, and maybe that's part of why we don't have a release date for Marathon yet, or whatever else. But like you need to find a way to make that genre accessible to a larger number of people. And what this video just did is tell me that they have seeded that ground completely. They're like, no, this game's not for everybody. They're telling you up front, we're making one of those. And I think that's a damn shame. I think that's a damn shame. Because I love the look of Marathon. But what they just told me is, you know, hey, this is not going to be a game for you. Like, okay. There are other extraction shooters I have played and not enjoyed. And so I get it. Like some people really like those, and more power to them, right? That's awesome. Not every game has to be for me. That's fine. But yeah, it's a bummer. It's a bummer as someone who was pulling for this game and hoping like, oh man, maybe this will end up being kind of awesome. It's got a neat look to it, and yeah, like it's not. It feels like it is maybe barely associated with what Marathon has been over the years with this kind of genre change, and that's fine. I'm not necessarily enough of a Marathon nut to be up in arms about that aspect of all this. But like, if when you're getting out there and saying like, hey, we're making this intense survival experience, it's not for everybody, and that, like, okay, other people have already made that game, and so making a game that is like that but has a cool sci-fi style, that's not enough. So I'm super bummed. Like I said, I my hope was that Bungie would take it on in a different way. You know, it's not necessarily new news that this is an extraction shooter. They've been saying as much, but I do think, again, you know, you look at Bungie's history, how popular Halo obviously was, and you look at how popular and accessible I think a lot of aspects of Destiny have been over the years. Destiny did a really good job. Destiny, if you play Destiny, anyone can play it, right? You just run around and shoot stuff, and the general storyline stuff, you can get through it. Anyone can. You're just blasting stuff and having a good time. But if you want to fucking get weird, there's insane mechanics in that. You can team up with players and go and do raids, and like, it is finding ways to introduce players to the way players work together in an MMO, the way that players work together in a raid. And they found ways to build that stuff into a first-person shooter in ways that would make it still kind of accessible to players who would never touch those concepts if they appeared in World of Warcraft, for example. But, you know, like, looking at the way raids typically worked in MMOs, you know, it's like they're exclusionary by design almost. And so the way Destiny did that stuff, they did it in an unflinching manner. Some of that stuff was crazy, but like, you could feel like you took it on. And even if you couldn't, there were dozens and dozens of hours of things to do in that game that you could enjoy. This, and again, you know, there's plenty more to know about Marathon, I'm sure. You know, they have no new footage here. There's no, you know, there's still a lot to say. So all we can really go off of is this video of the director talking about it. But the way that they're talking about this, it doesn't sound like that they're aiming for the same thing that they have done in the past. In terms of, hey, we're going to find ways to introduce these concepts to a larger audience. We're going to find ways to make a larger audience care about this style of game. And that's disappointing. And also, like, dude, if you're Sony, I don't know. If you're the company that just bought Bungie, are you stoked to hear that the other game they're working on, like, hey, yeah, this game we've been doing for 10 years is maybe not doing as great as it has been over that decade, but it's still running, and, you know, I don't know, people like it. Are you stoked to hear, like, hey, the other big game we're working on, not for everybody? Awesome. We're stoked we bought this studio. What a great move on our part. We really nailed it. So yeah, I you know. So yeah, I don't know, man. It's really, it's frustrating, and it sounds like that they have spent years ripping this game apart and putting back together, and, you know, like, they're you know, trying to figure it out. He does say in the context of the story, you know, he's just talking about a little bit about the world of Marathon. Our game's obviously set in the IP of Marathon. I think the first game released in 94, so it's quite a while ago. What we're doing with that world is we're taking a lot of the familiar elements, especially a lot of the things around the mysteries and the kind of eeriness and sort of like the, how do I put it, the psychological kind of creepiness of the entire IP as it exists before. But we're layering on some elements that we think will really help modernize it and also bring it to a new story that we can, and a new story and a sort of new world that we can sort of like continue to update and delight all of you over the course of time. Sorry, this is, someone definitely pointed like Whisper or some other AI transcription thing at this. I'm thinking with the way that this reads. So I'm sorry for the read being a little clumsy here, but it says, for the past couple of years, we've been doing a lot of aggressive changes to the game. We've been iterating pretty heavily, and during that time, we've been testing with a lot of players. I'm filled with gratitude when I think about it, because there's so many people who've contributed just by telling us, hey, this thing sucks, or this thing is great, in a way that has really helped us diagnose, analyze, and shape and shift the game in great ways. And then, he talks a little bit about, this, the state of the game. It says like, yeah, some parts are kind of far along, some parts are not so much. And, yeah, it's a video game that's in development, and then he asks people to wish list the game on Steam or on Xbox or on PSN. So on and so forth. Yeah, it's, again, I want to hold back because I don't want to jump to conclusions based on like a 10-minute video that has, a guy saying as little as possible about the game while also saying, hey, we needed to launch these pages and we think you should wish list it. Like that's that is why all this is happening from the looks of things, is because they had to launch those pages and they want to point people to them, but they didn't have assets ready to go to do, what do they call it? A vidoc. The worst word in video games. A vidoc. IGN is reporting that the Kamala Harris campaign has made a Fortnite map. And they called it Freedom Town, USA. And they say it's a custom creative map themed around some of the campaign pledges, including tax breaks for small businesses and a focus on affordable housing. This is not as cool. I'm just going to say, looking at the footage of the trailer that came out and stuff, like, and remember when Burnout Paradise came out and you had Obama billboards? That felt tasteful. That was integrated advertising. That was custom dynamic advertising that you could feel all right about. Is Guy Fieri in this? Is Freedom Town? Is that him? Is that his thing? No, he's Flavor Town. Sorry. Same thing, really. Yeah, I don't know. This combined, I think if the more effective video game thing that the campaign did was Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and Tim Walz sat down and played some Madden and then also played some Crazy Taxi. That's probably a more effective video game related bit for them to be doing. But I don't know, like this just reminds me of Second Life. There was a moment there was like a 6-week period, a 6-year period. Who can say? It's such a blur. But there was a moment there where everyone was convinced that this metaverse was going to happen. And so brands and political campaigns and all of this other stuff tried to, like, we've got our outpost up in Second Life and we've got a person there and you can go ask them questions about our cool brand. And it was the stupidest shit ever. Like this harkens back to the heady days of Second Life. But yeah, I don't know. I did not watch Tim Walz streaming Crazy Taxi. It sounds like that he's just genuinely enthusiastic about Crazy Taxi and the Dreamcast in general, to which I say more power to him. The guy's like 10 years older than I am, or like 11, or like somewhere around a decade. So I did the math on it. I'm thinking it through, going like, all right, well, I was like 25 when the Dreamcast, I was like 24 when the Dreamcast came out. So he was probably, like 34 or something. I was like, yeah, I could see, me at 34, I was like, yeah, fuck it, I'm buying consoles, dog. So it's very easy to see someone that was in that basic age group back in, 99, 2000, whatever, going like, hell yeah, no, I need a fucking Dreamcast. Like that makes a ton of sense. It's just weird. You don't think of, whenever I think of political candidates, I think of people that are super fucking old. Because they usually are. But now that I'm getting closer to those ages, like that, my head hasn't changed, You still think of it as like, oh, these people are fucking, like, these people don't play video games. And you're like, oh, wait. Actually, we're getting to a point where that's like something, that's a potential reality or something. And so that's sort of weird. I mean, hey, Steve Bannon, ran his fucking World of Warcraft gold farming operation. Congratulations to Mr. Bannon for being out of jail today. I think today's the day he got out of prison. Let's hope he gets back out there and, makes another set of cool Burger King games happen. Lock your doors. That's going to do it for news. Why don't we get into some emails here, huh? podcast@gar.bike is the email address. I went to go hit a button here. I'm just going to hit it. podcast@gar.bike is the email address. Come on. Send in some emails. I'll take a look at them and address them appropriately. And we will all leave sated. I will have questions to answer. You will have answers to your questions. Everyone will be stoked by the end of this. All right. Now, this music is just distracting to me now. Jack in Boston writes in. Says, appreciate all that you're doing in the name of science as you objectively rank NES games. This is important work. Lately, it seems like you've been delving into the true slop of the NES catalog, and you often appear exasperated or surprised by just how bad some of these games can be. Just when it seems like you've seen the worst, something like Friday the 13th or Predator comes along and flabbergasts you with its shittiness. Is the NES slush pile worse than you expected it to be? Just how bad can things get? Yeah, we've been on a run. If you're not watching, on Fridays, I am building a list and ranking every 8-bit Nintendo game. It's a scientific process. We have well over 300 games on the list now. Been doing this for over a year now, and it's a good time. You should come through and check it out. The videos are on YouTube if you want to find those. Or they stream live here on twitch.tv. But yeah, man, it's there's some really rough stuff. I think it's not necessarily that there are bad games. That doesn't weird me out. Like, of course, the NES was a very popular platform. Hundreds of games came out on it. Some of them are super bad. And I think that's fun. There's stuff that you're just like, it's hard to get a sense for, like, oh, just how bad some of these things are going to be. And, licensed games, it's fascinating seeing these games now, because it makes me realize that at some point licensed games did get ever so slightly better, because some of these are so bad. And maybe better's not the right word, because like the first game that popped into my head is that Charlie's Angels game that came out for GameCube. A quality product for sure. And it's not that it's better than the licensed fare that happened, 10 years earlier. It's 15 years earlier, whatever. It's more that games started being able to have full voice and likenesses and things like that. And so you look at some of those games and go like, oh yeah, here's Lucy Liu talking to me about Charlie's Angels stuff. I don't actually know if they have her voice. They probably don't. But you get my point. At some point, those things were able to more directly emulate the thing they were licensing just by virtue of, hey, this looks like the person from the movie, and hey, it's scenes from the movie, or they're talking, or there's FMV or whatever. And so they're able to take the easy way out on some of that stuff that you could not do back in the late 1980s. But stuff like Predator, where Pack-In Video and whoever developed it for them, I forget the name of the company. It's not Toast, it's someone else. Anyway, just made something insane. Or rather, they were making a totally different game and crammed the Predator into it or whatever. Like it's a distressing product on a lot of levels, that Predator game. And I love seeing that stuff because I played a lot of NES games. I played a lot of good games. I played a lot of terrible games. But it is super fun to go back and see some of these games that I did not play. And just to realize just how many games came out on that platform. And how many of them came out late. Like I abandoned my NES. I don't know. I'd have to go back and look at like dates and stuff. But like to me, in a lot of ways, Super Mario 3 is the last NES game, And even then, like I just rented that game because I, was not as interested in the NES anymore by that point, kind of moving on to computers and also, the goddamn Sega Genesis. I had a lot of Tommy Lasorda baseball to play. Don't have time for some of this other trash. And so, like to see all of these games that came out in 1990 and beyond on that platform, games that I just like, I did not have an NES hooked up at that point. Like I probably still did have one hooked up. I'd probably still rent a game here and there. But as soon as I got a Genesis, I was all in on that, like I was all about that Genesis. So, there's just tons of games that came out on the NES late that I'm just like not familiar with. And so that's been the most exciting part of this, is going back and revisiting like, okay, this is enough years in that people have developed some technical chops for making games on this system. Let's see what they did. And sometimes they make absolute trash. But you look at aspects of it and you go like, well, okay, you maybe invested in a memory mapper, or, it's like, this is not just a stock cartridge. But you did not make great use of what you had and all of that. It's been really, really, really fun to do this and to rank these games. And the good news is we probably have like another year of it. Like there are still hundreds of games left to rank. And, people keep talking about, oh, I hope you do Genesis games. I hope you do, SNES games, whatever. And like, yeah, I would, that would be fun. But I've still got a lot of work ahead of me on this. So it's maybe a little premature to start thinking about that sort of stuff. And also, like, as I've said before, when you get into 16-bit gaming, or as you move forward at all generationally, we do get to a point where games start to get more complicated and take a little bit longer to play. And so that slows down the process even further. Like, how long would it take to rank every single Super Nintendo game? I would guess, like, I bet there are more NES games. Okay, how many games were released in North America? I don't know what the number is for SNES. It's in the low 700s, 714 games, or maybe 721, 722, 725. So somewhere in the 725 range, which is not that different from the NES list as far as I can tell, but I bet it would take twice as long because the average game just is a little bit more complicated. It's going to take you a little bit longer to play it. It's going to take you a little bit longer to get through every single game. And so I bet that would take, I'm like, I don't even like, as I'm sitting here thinking about it, I'm like, oh God, no. Like that just seems like too much. We'll see. Mason writes in and says, what do you feel is the worst video game? What do you think are the worst video game advertisements? Could it be the one where they were going to pay you to name your kid Turok? How about Your Mom Hates Dead Space 2? Maybe it's the Dante's Inferno protesters. I think the Daikatana ad is maybe classically the worst video game ad. Where they made the bold claim of John Romero is going to make you his bitch. It's terrible. Yeah, I don't know. You know, there's just a lot of stupid. There are a lot of stupid ads for video games, and there was a time when they didn't advertise video games as just check out this video game, which is in a lot of ways the most effective way to advertise a video game, especially these days. Unless your video game looks like shit, you know, then maybe don't. But yeah, in those days where they didn't necessarily want to show screenshots of a game, they, you know, because they knew that they were fucking highly questionable to look at, or weren't necessarily going to sell the game. Rather, they would have to come up with something else. And I don't know. Didn't IDOS do Fear Effect ads that implied that the ladies got it on in the game? That to me was deceptive on multiple levels. These two ladies put the ass in Assassin. Murder and mayhem interrupted by frequent dressing and undressing. Yeah, the Fear Effect ads are pretty bad. No one's surprised this story is capable of 13 climaxes. And it's like the two characters from Fear Effect in like bra and panties. You know, one giving the other one a massage, you know, and the game didn't do any of that, goddammit! You scumbags! If you had, I mean, like, that would be an interesting story to tell if your game actually had any of that stuff in it. Imagine buying that game on the basis of, like, these video game girls are gonna fucking get it on. And then Fear Effect not being any of that. There ought to be a law. In fact, I think there is a law about false advertising. You motherfucker. Harvey writes in, Harvest writes in and says, Silent Scope's pretty tight, huh? Yeah. I mean, sure. Yes. I don't know. Like, Silent Scope came out at a time when I was not really going to arcades a bunch. And so I saw it here and there, but it was something that, you know, just came home. And at home, it was always, you know, here's another light gun game, but you can kind of zoom in. Whereas having the scope in the arcades and stuff was actually kind of fucking rad. So I don't know, like yes, but the way they reduced that and they'd have to, right? You know, there's no reasonable way they could bring that game home without compromising it in some way. But I think they did okay at that. Yeah, those games were neat. I don't know. I hit a wall with light gun shooters at a certain point as well. Because they just got a little too. I don't like. I think that genre topped out for me at like Virtua Cop 1 and 2. Because those games are so good that, like, even, you know, as they kept making Time Crisis games, I kind of just hit a point where, like, I get it. You can duck. Yeah. You can let your foot off the pedal. No, I understand. JP from Massachusetts writes in and says, which Call of Duty campaigns stick out to you as the best in the series? I think, you know, I think about it when the tricks were still tricks, you know? So I think Black Ops 1, I think Call of Duty 4 and Modern Warfare 2, like, those were really strong because you didn't know, you know, like when they were killing characters in the campaign, it was actually shocking because you were like, wait, my playable character, like, I just got to play as a guy who died from a nuke. What the fuck are we doing? You know, when No Russian happened the first time, it was pretty nuts. It was pretty nuts. And they, you know, I thought Black Ops 2 is really cool from a perspective of they're trying to expand upon your capabilities or your ability to shape the story with things you do in gameplay. Like, oh, you shot this guy and prevented him from getting away, so that means that this scene changes and this happens. Or like, hey, you shot this guy in the head and now he's dead. Or you shot this guy in the leg and he's alive now. That's interesting. You know, like interesting sort of things that you could do from a gameplay perspective and things that broke up the action. And I like that stuff a lot. So Black Ops 2 is definitely up there. It's nonsense. And I bet it's sillier now with all of its fucking drone swarms and all, or maybe it's even more prescient, you know. Advanced Warfare was okay. That's the press F to pay respects campaign, I believe. I think that Infinite Warfare, the space one, also does some interesting stuff around like side missions and just like the way that campaign is presented was pretty different from the like traditionally linear Call of Duty campaign. So Infinite Warfare is kind of cool. That's really all that game had going for it. The Black Ops 3 campaign is not great, but it's ridiculous. The reveal at the end, the other reveal of, hey, you paid extra attention to reading these little notes and decoded this secret, and now you know what's really, really going on. That's even crazier. Like all of that frozen forest bullshit and just everything they put into that one is bonkers. It's a lot easier to enjoy with some distance from it, I guess I would say, because when that thing was new, it was like, this is too far. You people this is stupid. This is dumb now. You've taken a thing and made it too dumb. But that, you know, that has something going for it. Not just Christopher Maloney. I mean, that helps. It definitely helps. But yeah, I think those are probably the big ones. I think the Modern Warfare reboot was cool because of the tech and some of the stuff they did in the process of rebooting it. just made it feel like a much bigger experience. The war crimes were just so much fun in that one. No. What else, man? I think those are probably the big ones. There's the Black Ops 6. I hope, like I said, I have not finished that campaign. I hope that they do more with, like, they're already kind of tipping their hand, and I'm hoping that is a misdirect. But there are tropes with Black Ops, right? I mean, Black Ops Cold War is so dumb. You play as a character named Bell, and then when they ring a bell, like you've been mind controlled and programmed, and when they ring a bell, you do it. It's fucking so much. It's so ham-fisted, and like it just feels like they're like, okay, well, it's Black Ops, so we've got to do this. We have to have someone needs to be under the influence of mind control, or else it's not Black Ops. Feels like the thing that they settle on when it comes to that game, and the current one, Black Ops 6, is kind of tipping in that direction. But they do it in the first like 10 minutes in a way that you're like, oh, well, clearly there has to be something else going on. I hope that's the case, because because if it's just this again, if it's just like, hey, you're a dude who's been mind controlled, and now there's a crazy level where you're fighting the mind control, or win or not, or whatever, I think that will be they will have gone back to the well too many times on that. Black Ops was about more, man. I feel like every year, man, every year they find new ways to cheapen the numbers, man. People talk about the numbers, and people talk about Mason because it was memorable, because games didn't do a lot of that stuff. And as much as, you know, the numbers and all of that other stuff just became a fun joke over the years, at the time, especially in a game that had like a terminal window hidden in it, and all, you know, like the other stuff that they put into that game, and the way that they kind of used numbers stations as like a way to deliver some of this story, and you know, the way that all of that fit into it. I think they did it in a really cool way when they set up the character of Mason and what his whole deal was and what the numbers meant and all of that. But to kind of just spit out like, oh yeah, I don't know, this dude's under mind control, and the CIA needed him to kill this guy, so we did this, or the Russians needed him to kill this guy, so they did this, or, you know, I hope they do more. That is my hope for the rest of that campaign, that if it just falls back on like, yeah, we did that thing again, that would be extremely disappointing. But the way that they are tipping their hand at like, hey, there's something else going on here, the way they do that almost right out of the gate is hopefully them subverting that to a certain extent. I hope. I don't know. Carlo writes in and asks me, have you been paying attention to the clash regarding 2 Princess Crown fan translation projects? No. He goes on. The original project has been in development for years and has still not been released. Meanwhile, a fork of it is being developed by someone else who has a beta but buggy release for people to try right now. The original developers appear to be mad at the fork existing, despite the original repo being under open source licensing before they took it down years ago. The original developers claim they are nearly finished and will release a video showing their progress, somewhat out of spite for the fork. Those years prior, they seem to be radio silent on the project. Does it matter which project is better at this point, as long as one releases in a good state first? To be fair, life can get in the way of what is ultimately a hobby project. But is it unreasonable for the developers to at least provide some form of update to people waiting a decade? Is this drama just stupid? Yes. But these sorts of scenes are always going to have that kind of drama. And does it matter which one releases first? I mean, as long as one's good, I don't think the average person will want to focus in on the drama or whatever, but like, I don't know, man. Like, this is, ROM hacking went through its weird fucking drama thing, and a bunch of sites spun out of that, and these sorts of scenes are always going to spawn big dumb drama, and the actual answer to your question is that no one working on a project as a hobby owes you an update for anything. You've paid $0. You have zero invested in this. They don't owe you shit. They don't even have to announce it first. They could just release it as a completely finished thing and say, here it is. We did this. Unless they, have a need for more people, or they need money so that they can afford to spend the time doing it right, or, like those sorts of situations do crop up, and it's valid. I think if they, and again, all I know is what's in this email. So if there's more other fucking shit going on, fine. That sucks. Whatever. I'm not going to engage with this in a deeper way because I just don't care about Princess Crown. But in a general sense, I will say, if they published something publicly and it was under some kind of open source license, they can be salty about it, but it's not like it was illegal, presumably, if they were doing all of the licensing right and all of that sort of stuff. So, they can only be so angry, I guess. But I don't know, if someone picked up their work and is running with it and trying to finish it or whatever, and if they do a good job with it, I don't think the average general public is going to care in the grand scheme of things. Also, the average general public is not going to care at all because it's a fan translation project for Princess Crown. No one, there's no such thing as dibs in this. If someone else wants to do the work, okay, fine. You could have 20 different people produce 20 different translations of the same game. Who cares? I mean, it'll be frustrating as a player because you have to figure out, like, what's the one I should play? What's going on? But like, whatever, man. Some of this stuff will happen, a little bit here and there with the FPGA stuff, which I've touched on some of the drama in that scene where, like a guy announced a long time ago that like, oh, we're looking at CPS 3. And so like no one else has done any work on it. Because this guy said that he was going to do it, and he's got a Patreon and all this other stuff, and nothing has materialized from that yet because he said, oh, we're going to do this, we're going to do this, we're going to do this, and then a lot of that stuff just kind of comes out, and the betas don't get polished up, and they don't become widely available as fast as you maybe want them to, and that whole thing's a little weird. Like, there's a Neo Geo Pocket core for the Mister that came out, but like it's so fucking weird and like not broken, but it is built in such a way that it's a very non-standard process of loading games and all of this other stuff. They're just like, I don't know that I feel good about backing this if this is the type of work that is going to be released and whatever else. But and then there's a group that claims that they're working on a device that is more powerful than the Mister and all of this other stuff, and they have not said anything. And again, like much like in this situation, they don't owe anybody updates. No one's paid money for this device. No one knows how much it's even going to cost or when it's going to exist or anything like that. But also, the team behind it has been making cores for other devices, and people got mad about the Mortal Kombat core only coming to Analog Pocket and not the Mister. And for a while, people were like, oh, it's because they hate the Mister because they're going to put out a competitor to the Mister. And And then they were like, well, it's not, it's actually can't run on the Mister because of the memory bandwidth, and there's actually issues with it. And then some other programmer kind of backed them up on that, or, you know, but they initially all said it was possible. So people got confused and thought, like, well, you're just pulling it. But then also they have been super fucking shitty and like filing copyright strikes against YouTube videos. It's like, it's just a fucking, it's just stupid. It's a stupid scene. All these scenes are stupid fucking, all scenes. Anything you can refer to as a scene is going to have scene drama. And it's all dumb. And you're better off just not even bothering to engage with it unless it is something that affects you directly, because you're deep enough into that scene that it has to affect you directly. Otherwise, just fucking whatever, man. Let that shit sort itself out. Who cares? Oh God, yes, the MB. Yeah, Okan1 in chat says the forums for MB are funny, full of people who are upset that Jellyfin exists. Yeah. Yes, the Plex MB Jellyfin fucking triumvirate of people complaining about all of them all the time for different reasons. It's just, I started running Jellyfin in the background just for kicks. It's okay. It's you know, Plex is good. Here's the thing about Plex. Plex is good. I don't know. MB, I'm not opposed to running MB, but I don't really see a reason to. I had a drive failure on my server that houses all of that stuff. I did not lose any data because I managed to exfiltrate all the data off the failing drive, with the exception of like 5 or 6 files that were all sitting, that had all been backed up by Backblaze. So I was able to just go to Backblaze, log in, restore it. It was all super easy and didn't lose a single thing. But that drive is completely failed, and so I'm in the process of like, okay, I need to move this server to an entirely different machine because this computer is just too old anyway, and it is running weird anyway, and so it's probably high time for me to move it to another machine. The machine I'm going to move it to, however, doesn't have room for hard drives. And so I had to sit and figure out, like, what am I going to do? I need to pull these hard drives and get them into some kind of enclosure. And so I ended up buying, an enclosure that I can, it's like, you know, USB 3.2 fast, whatever. But I ended up buying this TerraMaster thing that holds 6 drives. And so this is going to sit next to that small tower, and this will have all the hard drives in it. And I don't know. I need to figure out a good time. I feel like a proper server guy because I have to wait for everyone to stop using the server before I can completely replace it. And I also need to make sure that it's up by morning because the kids use it to watch television. And so if it's down when they are up, well, then I'll have people harassing me while I'm trying to fix the server, and I can't have that either. So, but whatever. It's a relatively easy transition. It's not that big a deal. Unless something goes wrong, and then, you know, hey. But yeah, that drive completely fucking failed. I don't know. Shit happens, man. Hard drives. Turns out they're still hard drives. And you know what hard drives do? They fail. All of them. All of them eventually fail. Mikey from Australia writes in from Cessnock, Australia, which I'm sure is a real place. And Mikey says, I just finished playing the first mission of the Black Ops 6 campaign, and I got the special rare achievement pop-up because only 3.95% of players have that achievement. Considering the new ownership and Game Pass as factors, do you think they'll ever take another swing at shipping a Call of Duty game without a campaign? So these numbers are skewed. I took this question because those numbers, I think, are potentially very misleading because of the way that they work. And the way you're talking about rare achievement pop-ups makes me think you're talking about Xbox. So I'm actually going to double check that things are this way on Xbox here real quick. But on Steam, all of these achievement percentages have been completely skewed by the way that they cram the last 3 Call of Duties together into one launcher. Because technically all 3 Call of Duties are one game. And so naturally, fewer players will have played the newest one than have played the oldest one. I guess that maybe naturally is not the word there, but in a general sense, that seems to be the case. And that's something that I noticed a lot last year, that percentages for doing things in the campaign in last year's game, all those percentages were super low. We know that, like, you know, hey, there are plenty of people who don't play the Call of Duty campaign at all. They just play the multiplayer or zombies or whatever the fuck they're doing. And that's always a thing. So, you know, even in years where this was not the case, the achievement percentages on campaign related stuff were not always super high. That said, they are way lower now than they normally are. I am going to look here and see. Yeah, so same deal. So Black Ops 6 is considered DLC for Call of Duty in terms of how it is presented on the Xbox backend and how it is framed and shown on trueachievements.com. So all of those percentages are going to be mashed together with the last 3 years of Call of Duty. And that's why those numbers are going to be even lower, because you've got people who not only haven't played that campaign, they don't even own that game in the first place. You know? And so as a result, those numbers are going to be all over the place. Or rather, they're all going to be low. And you might have people that didn't play the last 2 years of it that were waiting for a Black Ops 6, and maybe that stuff evens out, and maybe the older achievements fall off a cliff, or, you know, there's all of that sort of stuff that that's just sort of weird, right? You see that with games, like when games are in early access for a long time and they add achievements later, where players maybe already played through the story, and so they're not going to play it again, and so they don't get those achievements, and so only players who play the game later have those achievements, and so the percentages on that stuff get fucked up all the time. And so you can't necessarily, it's hard to take it as a sign for much of anything. 43% of tracked players on True Achievements have the "you got 75 kills with an active combat" specialty, which is not a difficult thing to get. I got that on the first day the game was out. But it is currently a 5.5% unlock on Xbox Live across the board. Every achievement I'm getting in Black Ops 6 is at or near the top of my rare, like I have a rarest achievements showcase on my Steam profile, and all of those are basically right near the top because they're under 1%. Yeah, these are crazy low. But that's it's because of the way Activision has bundled up these last few years of Call of Duty. It's not necessarily no one's playing the campaign. It's more like a lot of people don't play the campaign, and then it is skewed even worse, even further by the nature of the Call of Duty headquarters front end thing. Sean writes in and says, "Do you ever feel like you're actually not looking at the game while you play it? I find when I play games now, I'm always looking at the mini map. Help, everything is Pac-Man. Is there anything I can do?" Yeah, there's definitely that ended up becoming a criticism of GTA at a certain point, where you're just like, as you're driving your car around, you're really just kind of staring at the mini map because you need to know where to turn next and all of that. And some of that stuff is not always easy to figure out unless you're staring at the minimap. And so I think it behooves games like that to put arrows in the world and put lines on the roads and, you know, do their GPS stuff that way. if only because it gets you looking at the fucking screen and seeing the cars and seeing the visual splendor, if you will. But yeah, no, that's something that has definitely happened in a lot of games, and you know, it's usually because of that. I find in my experience it's usually because of GPS stuff on driving that I'm staring at the minimap. In Call of Duty, I'm definitely like situationally staring at the minimap for portions of a match, but you kind of need to check it out here and there. Tim from Jersey writes in and says, does the universal hatred of the Vita have a lot to do with its library? Yeah, yes, definitely. I got a lot of enjoyment out of mine, but when I look at my library of Vita games, it's definitely a lot of things I consider more on the niche side. Dungeon crawlers like Stranger of Sword City and Demon Gaze. Visual novels like Steins Gate and Danganronpa. And Persona 4 Golden and Persona 4 Dancing All Night. Whether Persona is still considered niche, I'll leave that for others to decide. I have a fond memory of playing Persona 4 Dancing All Night on an hour-long plane delay. Hey. How's it going? Do you need a signature? Okay, cool. All right, I'll be right out. I'll be right back. All right, sorry, I had to sign for a package. Anyway, the Tim's question is, am I a sicko for actually liking the Vita? I need to know. Sure. Yes, you are. But yes, the Vita library is not awesome, and a lot of the games on it appeal to a specific crowd, and I think that there are people who really like those types of games. Whenever I think about the Vita, I think about that game that was basically kind of a Monster Hunter, but it had the stupid book with the face on it. I remember trying to play it when I got my Soul Sacrifice. Yes, when I got my Vita, that someone had solved my Katsu Kitty Vita with the capture board built into it, and I was trying to use that. I remember it was right around the time that Soul Sacrifice came out, and that it was one of the games I tried on it first. That game's ridiculous. It's nonsense for nonsense people. And at the time, it felt like there were like 5 Monster Hunters coming out all at once, and none of them were called Monster Hunter. It was just like, here's a bunch of games that kind of might as well be a Monster Hunter style game. And it's on the Vita. Here you go. We're taking a swing at this genre. Here you go. And I didn't want to play any of those. And a lot of people didn't want to play any of those. It made sense because, obviously Monster Hunter was a very popular portable game on the PSP. And so, the reasons for that happening make a lot of sense, but those were not the widest appeal in the West. And yeah, qualitatively, I can't really speak to were any of those games actually good at being Monster Hunter-esque games. I don't know. I'm not the person when it comes to judging old style Monster Hunter games. New style Monster Hunter games, that I'm on board with. The beta for for Walz, I guess, is on PSN. I should check that out now that I'm saying that out loud. I'm like, oh god, I got to do that. Yes, the Vita library is weird, right? I mean, there are big name games on it, but those are not the games that people talk about when they talk about liking the Vita. It's not like, oh, this massive first party, this was, everyone loves that Uncharted game. No, man, it was like, no. And it didn't get third-party support the way that the PSP did. We talked about that last week, how just a lot of developers were doing ports and weird versions of their games on the PSP and how that was cool until it wasn't. But the Vita was just not, no one, it felt like developers were not super interested in it, especially in the West. It felt like developers here were not, and maybe that was because they had done those fucking kind of lackluster ports for the PSP and didn't see sales results the way they wanted to, and so they were hedging their bets a little bit more when it came to the Vita, and maybe, you know, like all of that sort of stuff just kind of, you know, went in that direction anyway. People focused more on mobile games. EA was too busy putting out that fucking crappy version of Tetris they did before Ubisoft got the rights and put out their crappy version of Tetris on phones. You know, the Vita was not exciting to a lot of developers. And so, you know, but you did have those weird situations where like Borderlands is coming to the Vita and you're like, that's not. Like, okay, you can do that. It doesn't mean you should. That's not where I want to play Borderlands. It's technically interesting that you're capable of pulling this off, but that also, didn't that not run well? I remember people being unhappy with that, at least at launch. I think they fixed it. They got it going, but yeah, man, the Vita. People joke about the Vita and all that sort of stuff, and I get it. It's fun to joke about the Vita, but also the Vita is not a great platform. Like, seriously, like it's not, like it just did not see the level of support that you would want. And I think, you know, you're kind of getting at the point here that just like, if you like that specific flavor of game or those specific flavors of games, then I understand why you would like the Vita, because you're like, oh, I care about this visual novel. I care about this. Like, the Japanese side of development was very different than what we saw in the West, but yeah, you know, the West kind of dropped the ball on it. They didn't really care about it the same way, which understandably so, considering where things were with phones and everything here at the time, why they wouldn't bother. But even Sony's first party studios felt like they couldn't be bothered to bring out big, cool games on the Vita. So yeah, I don't know. Nier was neat. The weird GPS. Maybe you get a fucking SIM card and put it in your Vita and then fucking do whatever that was. Yeah, you could play Phantasy Star Online 2 on a Vita. I did that. It was not easy to jump through some of those hoops to make that work here in the States. But hey. Blake writes in and says, why is it that Call of Duty is the only franchise that isn't scared of weed in games? You could say it's because they want their games to sell and not scare everyone off, you know, business dudes and stuff like that. But I say if Call of Duty can do it, anyone can. If anyone has a right to be scared of losing fans, it's Call of Duty. Far Cry has its big weed missions and stuff like that. You know, Narc for the PlayStation 2, you could get your hands on some drugs. Bill Bellamy could, you know, smoke some weird... I think those had fake names, didn't they? Or was it just the one drug had a fake name and the rest was just weed and coke and whatever else? I don't know. Yeah, you know, yeah, GTA Chinatown Wars. Like, there's definitely been like... And I feel like even those references in GTA sometimes were a little like oblique. Like, they weren't necessarily always coming out and saying it. But yeah, I don't know. GTA has definitely done its thing with weed as well. I think it's, you know, a lot of it doesn't necessarily make sense in some games, but I do think you're right. You know, in a general sense, like, you know, especially with it being legal in a lot of places, like, you know, there's nothing. I don't know. I don't think there's really a stigma to it. I think the ESRB would want to make your game rated M the minute you did that, and so it's not a thing you would do unless your game was already going to be rated M. Because you wouldn't just go like, well, our game's rated T, but we've got to put weed in it. So sorry, it's rated M now. And they're not going to do that. Anders from Stockholm writes in with the most important question of the week, of the month even. Do you know if Ice-T still plays on Xbox? Where's the best place to get shot by Lord 187X these days? It's a great question. And so I did try to look it up here. And when I search for it, I get a result on xboxgamertag.com, which it looks like a ridiculous website. I wonder if because do profiles still exist? Well, let me launch the Xbox app here and see what I can find here. But according to XboxGamerTag.com, Lord187X played Call of Duty 3 hours ago. Do you know what game he played before that? According to this, 6 days ago, he played a little game called Outriders. Ice-T out there playing Outriders. How do I search for people? There we go. Lord187. I'm like, how do I add people on friggin' Xbox? No, that's not. I want to see his profile. View profile. There we go. Yeah, that checks out when I look in the Xbox app. Call of Duty, Outriders. And then 2 months ago, he played The Division 2. 2 months ago, he played Payday 3. Borderlands 3. 3 months ago, played Cyberpunk. So I'm going to say someone is using that Xbox account. Presumably it's Ice-T. Maybe Ice-T's son is using it sometimes as well. Sometimes that happens. I don't know. A year ago, he played Payday 2. 5 months ago, he played The Outlast Trials. 1 year ago, he played the Outriders demo. So, probably played the Outriders demo and went, yeah. This is dope right here. And then bought Outriders. Or it was on Game Pass for a while, so maybe, 3 years ago, played Yakuza 0, has 1 achievement. Has 15 achievements in Destiny 2. Okay. Uh, 23 achievements in Hitman 3. 2 achievements in Race with Ryan, which he played 4 years ago. According to this. $260 achievement points in Roblox. But has not touched Roblox for a very long time from the looks of things. Over 4 years ago. Also around that same time, played Gears of War 3. Just, revisiting the hits. Like, yeah, I was in that one. So, yes, it looks like potentially Ice-T still plays his Xbox. It is always possible that someone else in his family is using that account now. I don't know. Gordon from Chicago writes in with a question that I don't know that I have the actual answer to, but let's see. While watching some videos of this weirdo systematically play and rank every 8-bit Nintendo game, I noticed that a lot of Japanese video games named their protagonist Ryu. Upon further investigation, I discovered Ryu is translated to dragon in Japanese. Furthermore, the name Ken in Japanese means fist. Any insight as to why Ryu was such a popular name for Japanese characters other than maybe being named Dragon? Are there any examples of American characters in Japanese games where their name is a literal English word translation, like how Ken means fist? I'm gonna assume that these are like somewhat popular names or were at one point popular names in Japan. But also they're short and classically, you want short names in old video games because you don't have a lot of room on the screen for text anyway. So maybe that has something to do with it. But I don't know the actual answer to why these, but I just culturally, I assume it is something cultural about it that potentially Ken and Ryu are just popular names overall. But I don't have the actual answer to the question. But yeah. There you go. Devin from Minneapolis has the yes. Devin asks, you know what I'm still pissed off about? After spending $600 on a launch Xbox Series X and plugging it in, it made the same goddamn startup chime that I've been hearing for the last 8 years. I knew that new consoles were going to be less exciting phone-style upgrade, but I was weirdly disappointed when I heard those 3 notes again. I spent all this money and they couldn't even put new notes in it? Did you notice this? Did you think the aesthetics carried over from last gen were intentional, or were they just low on the priority list? I think I think that it was probably low on the priority list. I think there was a certain, but also I think I think it is intentional. I think there's a certain amount of like, hey, we want to just have the same experience, like the same dashboard, the same this. We want it to be familiar. I think they probably just decided they wanted it to be familiar. Unless you went out and bought an R2-D2 Xbox 360 or something. I agree with you. I absolutely agree with you that the noise that comes out of the console itself should be different. But I would take it one step further and say you should be able to customize it to do whatever you want. You should be able to, and you should be able to put a custom audio file in there, or custom, it should just play whatever noise you want it to make when you turn that thing on. Not just, oh, I bought the Gears of War one, and so it makes the chainsaw noise, or you should be able to customize that beep. And on the Sony side of things, they have had that same beep coming out of that fucking console since what, the PlayStation 3? And yes, and they should sell them. Yes, I bought the limited edition version of this game, and as such, when I push the button on my Xbox, now it goes da 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 da, and everyone's stoked. But yeah, that stuff does matter. How much does it matter? Probably not that much. But in a generation where I think there are a lot of people who are like, man, it's hard to feel excited about these consoles. They don't feel new. They don't feel this. They don't like, all of those things would have helped a little bit. More dramatic UI departures would have helped a little bit. I also feel like Sony's like console, like you can turn it off, and I assume everyone does, but they've all had menu music, right? Has that been since PlayStation 3 as well? Since they introduced the XMB? I think the menu music that these devices that Sony has been putting out has been worse ever since. Like that has been getting steadily worse. Yeah, the PS2 BIOS has its like, wave crash noise, ambient, whatever. Like that stuff was cool too. The PS2 UI is haunting. It's great. The audio and the blocks and all that stuff, like, yeah. Let's see here. I'll take like one or two more questions and then hit the bricks. Let's see here. Gabriel from California writes in and says, you always seem to find cool indie games that completely passed me by, a recent example being Pinball Spire. With the constant stream of garbage on every platform, how do you discover these interesting games I never see anyone talking about? Some of it's word of mouth. Like looking and seeing other game developers talk about games they're playing. I'm looking at, like I just see a lot of stuff, and I get a zillion emails a day about games. And so part of it is like, I read all those emails, and 1 out of every 20 of those emails, the game sounds really interesting. And I go, I should give that a look real quick. And I will add it to the list and give it a look. Sometimes you hear about, it's anywhere, really. And that kind of happens anywhere. But that's the general process, is like, I will come across a game, whether it's someone on Blue Sky talking about it, or, hey, you're like, I'm scrolling through Reddit, shaking my head at wrestling news, and somewhere in the middle of all that is a post from a game thing of someone saying like, hey, I made this game and here it is. Sometimes someone will just send me a game and be like, like someone will hit me up on Blue Sky or whatever and be like, you should check this out. And sometimes I will, sometimes I won't. And like, if I have time or remember the game or whatever, or look it up. I think that's how Node Buster came into my life, is someone said, hey, you should check this out on Blue Sky. And then I did. And yeah, so it's a variety. I mean, Pinball Spire is something that's like, hey, if someone's doing a thing with pinball, eventually I'm going to hear about it one way or the other. Someone's going to come to me and be like, hey, I know you are the guy who needs to see this. And I'm like, yes, you are right. You are right. I am. And yeah, so that's just kind of how it happens. I don't know. People talk about games, and so it really is kind of a word of mouth thing. But for me, there's also the added thing of, I get a zillion press releases about games every day. And sometimes those games look interesting and sometimes they don't. Sometimes I'll just get a code for something. And sometimes I'll punch it in. Sometimes I won't. It's, some of that stuff can even be weird. Like if I get an email when I'm busy, like if I get an email that's a code for a game, and then like the kids are in here jumping up and down and I got 9 other things going on, I might just miss it. And that email gets marked as read and I never see it again. And it just is like, whatever. Maybe it would be something I would be into. I don't know. Who knows? And sometimes the opposite is true. That I mean, like I see a thing and it's like, whatever. Discovery in video games has been broken for a very long time. It's very hard for people to find games, and I try to do that. I can't do it the way that I used to because there are too many games coming out and there's just one of me. But I don't think anyone is doing it well anymore because I think it takes too many people. There are too many games coming out all the time for any, IGN can't do it. And I don't think anyone's bigger than IGN staff-wise, are they? So I just, the old style way of let's look at everything, you just can't. You just can't. And so, sometimes there's just like, sometimes I will just scan the new releases list on Steam. And if a game title looks interesting, I hover over it. And if what I see looks interesting, I visit the page. And if what I see looks interesting, I check the game. It's a variety of things, right? Let's see. Also, this is why, like, I don't really play demos very frequently. Generally speaking, I'm not really interested in demos for games. Because so much stuff is coming out all the time that when I hear a demo is good, usually my thought is I will check that out when it's a real thing. A thing that I get a lot of, because indie developers are always trying to find, trying to get people into their game, right? It's impossible. They're always trying to work it. They're always trying to find ways. But like when Steam has a big demo fest happening, maybe I'll try, like if there's a big multiplayer game, that's usually the lone exception. If it's just like, this is more like an open beta than it is a pure demo. Then sometimes I will dip into some of those sorts of things. But I'll get a lot of things, and a lot of this is like influencer tinged outreach. It's like stuff that comes into my public facing YouTube email address, which is just the dregs, man. The vast majority of stuff that comes to that address is not worth opening. But occasionally, like, there are publishers that contact me that way, and they have that email address in their database now. So it's like I have to read that and be like, oh, you sent it here. Okay, here, send it here instead, and then, you know, whatever. But I will get people saying like, this game is exciting, you know, this game's coming soon, and this is all, and there's a demo coming next week. We can offer you the demo 4 days early, so you can tell your audience all about it. Like, it's very much like hey, what if you had the demo early? Then your video might do better on YouTube. Like, it's like more people might watch your stream because you've got exclusive access that we're only giving to these 500 people that we emailed about this. And so, like, that stuff just always, I'm just like, okay, so you're sending me a key so I can access the demo of a thing early. I'm 99 times out of 100, I'm not going to be interested in that sort of thing. Again, because, like, there are a zillion games coming out every day. So demos, trailers, all of that sort of stuff. Like, I don't engage with that stuff as directly as some other people do. Nick writes in and says, hey, did the original Xbox have significantly better graphics that generation? I've been emulating PS2 games, and games I remember running well and looking nice do not indeed run well or look nice. I remember back then it was Xbox, GameCube, then PS2 in terms of power, but Mercenaries looks like garbage on the PS2. Am I wrong for remembering it looking good? Also, remember Mercenaries? Yeah, Mercenaries. You should play Mercenaries on the Xbox. It looks way better there than it does on fucking PS2. So yeah, also, you know, once you're emulating games of that, like, once you start emulating polygonal games, it's hard to get a sense for, like, does it look good or bad or whatever, because so many emulators will put so many weird filters on it, and you can up-res everything and do this and that. There's so much you can do at the emulator level that it's hard to. You can make, but the thing I will say is that you can make a lot of PS2 games look like Xbox games by applying the right filters in PC SX2. Yeah, that was typically how it was, is that, you know, in a lot of cases, third-party games that appeared on all platforms, the Xbox version would usually look the best. The GameCube version would sometimes look a little bit better than the PS2. And the PS2 version would look a little blocky, you know, like a little pixely by comparison. But most people played on PS2. So that's just kind of how it went. And so it didn't matter that Xbox games looked better, unless you were an Xbox fanboy, in which case you were writing emails to every publication you could think of to say, "This is you guys hate the Xbox." Like, all right, no, nope, no, leave me alone, weirdo. Anyway, that's going to do it for this edition of the program. Thanks everybody for listening. Yeah, I want to finish the Call of Duty campaign, and I've not been playing a ton of multiplayer. I think it's the difference. Like, Call of Duty used to come out and you would have, like I was saying last week a little bit, you would have 6 months out of the year that you were just kind of not playing it because you forgot that the maps were coming out and whatever. You went and did something else with your time. And now, you know, they have all these seasons, and, you know, it's like, oh, play it year round. And they really try to get you in there to play it year round. And, you know, the last game of Modern Warfare 3 I played was probably 3 weeks ago or something like that, 2 weeks ago even. And so to go from a game that I was playing occasionally, mostly casually, but still kind of playing it here and there, to, like, now the new one's out. And, like, yeah, it is significantly different, but also I've played a lot of Call of Duty over the last 2 years, and so I'll play like 3 matches and then go, I gotta stop. Whereas like when Modern Warfare 2 came out or when Call of Duty 4 came out, I would play that goddamn thing for hours at a time. So I don't know. It's that's kind of a weird sort of thing. Nick PGS in the chat says Combat Master is better. So I streamed some Combat Master last week, which is a phone game that's also on Steam. It's a free-to-play first-person shooter that is borrowing a lot of ideas from Call of Duty. You should check it out. It's ridiculous. The other thing I discovered is that they recreated Q3 DM17 in that game. The longest yard is in Combat Master. And you can play it with like Call of Duty rules. Except that they put armor around and they made it so when you pick up armor, it automatically fills up your armor meter like you were playing Quake. But you still pick up fucking MP5s and all this other shit. And it still has bounce pads and you can bounce all the way out and get a sniper rifle and shoot. It's fucking crazy. It is the most unhinged thing I've seen in first-person shooter development in a very long time. Combat Master, in a general sense, qualifies for that statement. But the idea that they remade a Quake 3 map and put it in there is extra fucking crazy. You should check it out. It's a Halloween map, so I don't know how long it's going to be in the game. Let me see if I can... It has a name. It's like something yard, obviously. Fight Yard is what they call it. And they've got there was a thing on the main menu that just says Fight Yard 24/7. God damn it, that's what it is. You should give that game a look. It's real stupid. It's real stupid. And that's a great map. That's still a great map. I don't care what game you're playing in it. The longest yard is still a great goddamn map. All right, that's going to do it for me. Have yourself a good Tuesday. I'll be back on Wednesday to play some video games. God, man, what am I just 3 hours of Combat Master? No. Actually. You know what? We'll see. We'll see. There's a lot of other games out. That would be borderline irresponsible. But I'll be back tomorrow. We'll play some games. On Friday, we'll rank some 8-bit Nintendo games, as we always do. And then this weekend, Daylight Savings ends. So depending on where you live in the world, this stream might start at a different time. I don't know how time works. I'll see you soon.